The following program is an Animal House radio production.
It gets me very upset when I talk about that, so I don't want to talk about that. I don't want to think about things like that. I like thinking about somewhere over the rainbow.
Well, we can. I can talk about something else.
Please, you know what is going on with Toronto Animal Services? You and I had a great chat before. Tell me what's going up.
Yeah, well, we've. I was just going to say about the barking thing. Call us if there's a complaint. We'll talk to people. We don't take very hard action. Usually, it's informative. We try to educate, refer people to their vets or a behaviorist. We want to make sure everyone's living harmoniously. So that's generally our role. But just a little bit of advice here. Some great information came down from one of the supervisors about emergency preparedness, and I think we can all look back over the summer and remember the Seacourt Avenue explosion and apartment fire and the propane blast in North York. Now, Animal Services responded to both those disasters, and we were there doing search, rescue, recovery with pets that were left abandoned in the homes and the apartments when people were evacuated. So, it's so important that, we try to get people to say, listen, have a little emergency kit for you and your family, but don't forget to include your pets in that.
Yeah, have a good escape plan. If there's a fire, I'm going to say a firecracker. Exactly. If there's an earthquake, make a plan. Have a safety kit, but also think all the members of your family, because animals are members of your family. How are you going to get out of the house?
Well, sometimes, particularly with cats, during, an explosion of fire, the cats are going to retreat. You may not be able to find them as easily as you can your black lab just barking saying, hey, let's get out of here. So for the ones that you're able to get out with you, take their medication. If they are on any, take some food. Make sure that you and your whole family are going to be able to sustain yourselves for that initial period. But when it comes to animals that may be left in, put stickers on the door telling us how many animals are in there. License your pet, because you know what? We can take a list of licensed animals in a residential dwelling, in a neighborhood even, and say, listen, we have a dog registered here. We've got 3 cats registered there. This lets us communicate with emergency personnel and ensure that we're getting those animals out, and then we'll look after them. We had a number of animals stay with us for a little period of time until people got resettled, particularly after the Seacourt Avenue incident. And it's not something we can do in every instance, but something exceptional like that, we were able to provide shelter for a number of cats for several weeks while the owner got everything sorted out. So we're part of that emergency preparedness plan, but you need to do your part and make it a little bit easier. So get them tagged, put up some signs, let us know what's in there, and always be ready for the unanticipated.
Of course. Nicola, thank you so much. Tell everybody how to get in touch with Toronto Animal Services, please.
My personal cell, 338 pause. That's our 24 hours, 24 hours, 7-day-a-week number, and always online at www.animalservices/ I'm missing something. No, sorry. No, you know what it is? It's www.toronto.ca/animal services.
No, perfect. Thank you very much. We'll talk to you next week, Nicola.
Cheers, gentlemen.
Take care of yourself.
Remember, always keep that door shut when you're having fun in the bedroom.
Now, that's another important thing that you talked about, the license. I didn't even think about that. Licenses, in a situation when you have a sort of a mass problem, and you have animals that are licensed, they can go looking for them. It's just having some record other than your own by someone else of your pet. I think it's just important. I think it's great.
And also in terms of barking, she brought up a great point where, once again, they don't have they don't have an actual law. It works into the, hey, there's something's being, there's after 11 o'clock, it's you can't go over a certain decimal point, right? You can't be too loud. So I guess that would work into the same thing in that sense. We had a crazy woman where Deborah used to live in an apartment young in Eglinton. At noon, if you would walk in her apartment, the woman would come knocking upstairs and be, can you stop it? And I'm like, it's noon. I can't walk. And you bring a dog up there. I mean, forget about it. It's, I
think she mentioned an interesting problem. That is that with all the professionals out there today, in terms of both family members working, it's a tough time because you let these dogs alone and they don't even know they're barking. It's a shame. And a lot of these dogs go through separation anxiety. I mean, a lot of people spoil their pets and then leave them for 8 hours.
You know what? We're going to take a break. When we come back, we want to know, what do you think is the worst type of dog? The yappers, the barkers? Which ones? I think the small ones bark. They just yap and yap and yap.
Yeah, the terriers we talked about.
Oh, goodness. Just yap and yap and yap. Oh, it's ridiculous. Show is brought to you by our good friends at Hills Pet Nutrition, makers of Science Diet, Pet Food, and Prescription Diet Pet Food. Speak to your local veterinarian. Call the program right now, 416-785-0680, and bark it all up with Animal House Radio. Back on Animal House Radio, brought to you by Hills Pet Nutrition, makers of Science Diet and Prescription Diet Pet Food. Ask your local veterinarian, 416-785-0680. Just a little news bulletin here. The Buffalo Sabres are the worst hockey team in the NHL. And St. Louis Blues, great team. And you know what? I want to talk a little bit more about the barking issues and a little bit of why and what some of the preventive things that we can do. So, Dr. Mike, give me the news, brother.
Okay. Well, we talked about why. We said genetics. You know, these terriers are barkers, and a lot of dogs, and this is the problem we talked about before, they're bored, or they're frustrated, or they're lonely. So if you're leaving your dog, try not to leave them for extended periods of time or in an enclosed area for extended periods of time. I know it's difficult. We all work, but I think it's really important. And if you are doing that, the biggest thing you can do when you get home is lots of play, lots of exercise. A lot of these guys just need, if they're frustrated and they get out their pent-up energy by exercising, I think that's the key. Most dogs don't get enough exercise. We let them out in the backyard. They go to pee. They come inside. Then we crate them. Then they go outside and pee in the backyard. And there's none of that sort of pent-up energy. They can't get rid of it.
Yeah.
So what are they going to do? They're going to bark, simply. Other reason why dogs bark, it's environmental. You know, cars going by, people in the bed having fun, phones ringing, vacuum cleaners going. A common cause of barking is territorial. Does Romeo territorial bark? My Carib territory, and this dog is so calm, but you come to the front door, and my standard poodle knows you're there.
I do say, sir, you asked me a question.
Yes, well, there you go. Sorry. I was talking about my dog, too. Does Romeo bark when people come to the door?
Does my yellow lab, who's the greatest yellow lab in the world, bark? Yeah, of course. He goes nuts. The doorbell rings just beyond it, and and if he hears a siren, he howls like you would not believe. Wow. I think previously he was a person, and he used to do something in law enforcement.
Okay.
I'm not kidding.
Wow.
I think he was, someone who was an Irish police officer and no longer with us in the human realm, and now is a Labrador living with a good Jewish family.
Well, that is a form of territorial aggression, which is very normal aggression. And sometimes you don't want to discourage dogs from doing that. See, I think some of the biggest problems with us as humans is we tend to get after them for the wrong types of barking.
Of course. Right? And we've all heard the issues.
For the good types of barking, I mean.
But we've all heard the issues, the mailman and stuff like that when they come there, and the milkman with the dog saying, you know what, it kind of is true. And when the doorbell rings, there's a guy from UPS from my house with like a big scoop free box. Romeo, it sounds like he's going to kill the person.
That's good. There's nothing wrung with that.
There's nothing wrong. It's like having a gun and it's unloaded.
Okay.
Yeah, but it scares everybody. Yeah. But it's a good scare because I know he would just run up to them and kiss them.
Right. Exactly.
After jumping them and knocking them over, he would kiss them.
Looking for chocolate cake?
Yeah, he's a chocolate cake guy. So tell me, what else? What can we do to prevent these measures?
Well, first of all, we talk about exercise. Lots of exercise.
Lots of exercise.
Make sure they're tired. I mean, a tired, exercise-happy dog is going to sleep throughout the day. He's not going to sit there and be all pent up and barking. So exercise is important. Training is important. I think that we'll talk about the most important thing is to train your dogs to be quiet to a command. Well, you can only do that if they're trainable.
Sure.
So you have to take them to obedience classes and make sure that they are listening to you. And if they're listening to you, you are having a much better time at being able to tell them to do something or not to do something.
Sure.
So people who don't have any control over their dogs are going to really have a tough time stopping them from barking.
I have that issue.
Do you have that issue?
Oh, yes, I do.
And sometimes what I think people do, just something easy. If your dog barks at cars going by, at people going by, and he's barking all day long, put him away from the window. Just don't give him access to places, stimuluses. If he's stimulated by certain things and he wants to bark to that, just take him away from those stimuluses. So there's easy. So exercise, avoiding the stimulus, obedience training, those are the simple ones. Those are the things you can just do with any dog where you don't have to do any forms of behavior modification. But in the situation where you have to do that, then there's
you live in an apartment and they say to you, hey, listen, pal, if you don't fix this, you're out.
Right.
And then what do you say? Okay, we either give the dog back, or we go for a very serious preventative measure.
Right. The other thing that's really easy to do is socialize your pet. Now, how is Romeo with other dogs? My two dogs are great with other dogs. How's Romeo with other dogs?
He's okay. But
yeah, does he bark at them or?
No, he doesn't bark at them. But the thing is, he doesn't really pay attention to them. He pays attention to me. He's more of like, I want to be with Aaron.
Well, that's good. So obviously, you're the leader.